let's talk fly selection. There's a lot of work that goes into deciding what you're going to carry in your fly box, what you're going to use when you're out on the river. And we all like to catch fish. We all like to feel like we've got the right flies. So I'm going to share with you just kind of the tips, the things that I do and what I think works well. So again, there's a lot that goes into deciding what flies you're going to put in your fly box. I've got the nymphs, I've got the dry flies, but what am I going to put on my box? I don't want to take everything I own. I've got 20, 30 different fly boxes all full. Which fly box am I going to take? What flies do I want to have in each box? And so I tried to come up with a system. I'm going to share that with you, just let you know how I do it and how I make it happen. So for me, the first thing that I do, I like guidebooks. So I start with guidebooks. I've got plenty of guidebooks. And if you grab a guidebook, any one of them, it's going to have a section on there that shows what flies work for any given section. And so I'll go to those fly box section or those books and I'll look at them and I'll find out what flies they're using. So if you look here, you can see, just columns here and tells you what flies to use on the river for any given river. So I've taken those flies and then I actually, maybe a little bit nerdy, but I put them all on a spreadsheet. So I took that spreadsheet and I listed by every river I fish. I went through half a dozen guidebooks and identified all the flies each guidebook recommended, listed those in that spreadsheet. And then I went through and identified all the flies that were similar in every river. And honestly, I did this several years ago before AI was really a thing. And so I had to go through and manually identify where the duplicates were. But I did it the other day just using AI, a co-pilot, and I asked it to go through and look at all these flies, identify the duplicates on the river and put them on a list. It took me about 10 seconds. So it was very quick, very easy. Once I have that list put together, then I know what flies I want to tie. And I focus my attention on tying those flies so that I have the majority of flies that are going to fish on the rivers that I'm fishing so that I can duplicate. I don't have to have a special fly box for every river. I have my fly box that's got flies that are going to work on all the rivers that I fish. So that's how I decide which flies I'm going to tie. Now, once I tie them, how do I organize them? All right, so this is my fly bench. Nothing fancy, it's messy. Everything just kind of jumbled together. I have just basically a little tackle box and I just have, my various threads and items in here. And my vise, I tie my flies. I typically tie one at a time. So here I have a bunch of, let's just show you, I have a bunch of pheasant tails, that I kind of tied here just recently. I take those pheasant tails and just use these. These are contact cases. So I have contacts and I just take the old contacts cases and I take them and I just write on there what fly I'm tying. So these are yellow Sally nymphs. Right here I have a red copper Johns. So I just use those cases and I put the flies in these when I'm done tying them. So some $3 dips, and I just organize my flies as I tie them. I just fill them in each one of these little contact cases. And that gives me a good container to keep my flies in. They're small, they're compact, and they can hold a lot of flies. So once I've tied my flies and I have them in these little contact cases, again, I have one a month. So between me and my wife, we have dozens and dozens of these. Once I have them collected, again, I've written on them. I used to have them sitting on my shelf, and I had them lined up on the shelf. 3 dozen of these lined up, and it wasn't effective. So I had to find a way to organize those. What I came up with, they have these they're actually shotgun holders, shotgun shell holders. And I just take these, they open up, and I just stack my flies in there. I write their names, their alphabetical order. So the Adams, the ant, blue-winged olive, caddis larva. And I just stack them up like this. And I have several of those. Here's one. Here's another one. And these aren't things that I take on the river with me. Well, I should say that. So again, I just have my flies stacked up in these. They're alphabetical. They contain my flies. They're organized. And I do take these with me. I'll take them if I'm going on a trip. I'll leave them in the truck, or maybe I'll have them under the seat in the drift boat. So they're not my working fly box. I'll have my working fly box. I'll have it loaded up with what I think I'm going to need on the river, but I just can't carry every fly. And the last thing I want to do is be on the river and go, oh, darn it, I wish I had a prince nymph today and I just didn't put them in my box. And so I have these close by. They're accessible for that one-off, but 95% of the time I don't need to go into this, but I use this to restock the fly box at the end of the day or before I go out on the river. So again, just some simple ways to organize a lot of flies. Hopefully that's helpful for you.